Death and dying in children's media. Is it a useful tool for parents? Do you remember watching any Disney movies as a kid? If you have, you might remember this moment when Simba's born in The Lion King, or the moment where Cinderella dances with the prince, or the main character from Encanto, Mirabel. These are the famous moments we talk about, but do you know what isn't addressed? The moment when Mufasa falls off a cliff's edge after being let go by his own brother and dies. The moment when Bombi and his mother are running away from hunters, but Bombi's mother gets shot and doesn't make it. Or the moment where Moana's grandmother is on her deathbed. But scenes like this happen way more often than you think. Did you know that the British Medical Journal has found that animated children's movies involve more character deaths than adult films? The same journal also reported that main characters are 2.5 times more likely to die and 3 times more likely to be murdered in children's Disney films. But are all of these just random deaths? A study by Coleman et al. In 2014 looked at 45 Disney children's animated films and compared it to 90 adult films to look at the likelihood of traumatic parental deaths being portrayed in both of these age groups. What were the results? It was found that parents of main characters are the primary target of on-screen deaths in children's films, 5 times more than adult films, making it likely that a child will be exposed to a parental death scene with every film. Let's look at some examples. Here we see the scene where Nemo's mother dies trying to save her children. On the right, we see Frollo killing Quasimodo's mother. How does this make a child feel? The death of a parent can be a really difficult theme for children to face. This in turn yields detrimental psychological impacts for a child and persists as an ongoing issue. The exposure to such ideas increases fear of separation from parents and children. This yields separation anxiety and traumatic mental states. These psychological outcomes can be significantly attributed to high screen time that kids have on their devices. Did you know children between the ages of 2 to 5 consume an estimated 32 hours a week of visual media, including movies? The ultimate outcome is a long-lasting effect on children's mental health and even withdrawal from certain activities. Let's take a look at Rose. Rose is a 7-year-old adventurous girl that loves nature and trying out new activities. She's on the swimming team at school and loves going to the beach whenever she gets a chance. Rose is a huge fan of Disney movies and has been spending more and more time on her iPad. After watching nearly all the different Disney films, her mom began noticing changes in Rose's anticipation for physical activities. She even began avoiding attending swimming classes. After going through Rose's history, her mom realized that recent films have been portraying deaths in many different forms, one of which being drowning. Her repeated exposure to death by drowning has caused her to withdraw from swimming altogether. Therefore, certain scene exposures can be directly correlated with activity withdrawal. Her mom also began noticing signs of separation anxiety as well, and it's taking away from Rose's personality and affecting her mental health. Unwanted side effects may persist through post-traumatic stress disorder in children. This trauma develops not only from constant exposure, but children may internalize unrealistic thoughts about death and dying, potentially harming their own mental health. So while the psychological impacts point to this form of media being a non-beneficial tool for parents, it is still important to consider if the content that is shown about death and dying is accurate and can still be beneficial. To determine this, we need to first understand a child's development process surrounding death. There are countless models and theories describing the stages that children begin to develop an understanding of death, with the earliest model being developed by Murray and Nagy in 1948. However, since then, there's been new research showing that these models underestimate how much a child can understand about death when given proper education. This led to the formation of the most universally recognized model to date, created by Spies and Brent, where now more categories are used to define a child's understanding of death. These are universality, all things must eventually die; irreversibility, dying can't be reversed; non-functionality, death involves the cessation of all life functions; and causality, understanding what events or conditions cause death. It is believed that children normally master these concepts in sequence between the ages of 5 to 10, and children younger than 5 do not have an understanding of these concepts. Now, understanding this model, do Disney films correctly show these same stages and properly educate a child about death and dying? The first mistake that Disney shows is that death is portrayed as reversible because they want to minimize the impact of loss. A study performed by Cox, Garrett, and Graham looked at 23 death scenes from 10 Disney films. In half of these films, the main character died and then came back in some type of way. A well-known example is in The Lion King, where after Mufasa dies, he later on reappears like a ghost-like figure communicating with Simba. This may seem harmless to us, as we may think, oh, it's sweet that they're showing the children that their loved ones will always be a part of them even after death. However, young children watching that scene may not see that same thing. They're likely to become confused by this idea and believe that those who died may actually return. Disney films also inaccurately show how to deal with death. Ever hear of the phrase life goes on? In Disney films, a lot of the characters deal with death quickly, and all of a sudden they're moving on because that is what is needed for their character development. In an interview with Glamour, Disney producer Don Hahn gave his explanation for why Disney does this. In his words, one reason is practical, because the movies are about 80 to 90 minutes long and Disney films are about growing up. They're about that day in your life when you have to accept responsibility. So it seems that death should be quickly gotten over because that's how you could supposedly grow up. It's quite common to go through a grieving process when experiencing the death of a loved one. According to the study by Mughal et al., natural grieving periods last between 6 months to 2 years. So grieving is a part of life, and not only is it okay to grieve, but we all have different ways of grieving. Disney shows one of the natural responses to grieving, which is feeling sadness. But according to that same study, there's actually a wide list of symptoms grieving individuals may encounter. This includes, but is not limited to, thoughts of disbelief and confusion, behaviors such as difficulty sleeping or loss of interest in activities, somatic symptoms like chest tightness and choking, or psychological symptoms of guilt and anger. In conclusion, there are many psychological impacts as well as inaccurate portrayals of death in Disney's children's films, so parents are better off relying on direct one-to-one conversations with their child, but communication is key. A study that we looked into from the Landslit showed a sample population of adult parents who reportedly had a loved one with an illness in the family and had to explain this to their child. Of these adults, 75% felt uncomfortable addressing the topic and only spoke once to their child about it. It is important to address the anxiety that parents feel about this topic because there's a negative association that exists between a parent's anxiety and their effective communication skills. Essentially, the more unwilling, unavailable, and uncomfortable the parent is in talking about death, the more their child's understanding of death is going to be lowered. These parents were also likely to resort to euphemisms, which create confusion for a child because they try to use words that lessen the impact because of the anxiety they have about talking about death. In conclusion, while it is encouraged for parents to resort to having these direct conversations and relying less on media, it is up to parents to ensure that they provide proper communication to their child by avoiding euphemisms and embracing these death conversations.